Okay, thank you all for gathering to hear my speech on processed foods. I wanted to let you know that we do have a weapon of mass destruction here in America. And I'm not sure if the government's aware of it or not, but it's on the plates that we put on our dinner tables at night. Our weapon of mass destruction. The reason that I call processed foods the weapon of mass destruction is because the food that we're eating, the macaronis and cheeses, the candy bars, those kinds of foods are causing disease in our bodies. The early person in the 1900s, they looked like this, generally, the average person. The average person of the 2000s, look at the difference in what people look like on a regular basis in the 1900s compared to what people look like today in the 2000s. Where does that come from? From the early 1900s until even to this day, food changed drastically in the last 50 years than it has in the entire 6,000 years of our existence. If it came from a plant, eat it. If it didn't come from a plant, don't eat it. One of the sources of authority that I chose to use is our most sacred Bible. Genesis 1:12 says, "And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good." And then in Genesis 1:29 he says, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat." So God has already said in the very first chapter of the very first book, and the most precious book that he gave us, that his diet is good. He also says in Revelations, the very last chapter, the very last book of the last chapter, Revelations 22 verse 2, he says, "In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, there was the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations." If you all think about it, when a dog gets sick, the first thing the dog does is it goes to grass. It doesn't come looking to us to heal it. It goes immediately to grass, the herb, the trees that God put down. So even animals know that there's a value in God's food. The reason that processed food is not all that healthy for you is these 27 countries in Europe, UK, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and Japan have banned some of the things that we eat on a regular basis that we consider to be great food. And in those foods, we are walking away with disease, disease, disease. Those processed foods have things like aspartame, soy lecithin, artificial flavors, artificial preservatives, and colors, and they're causing all kinds of disease to occur. You see there's cancer. We have a high rate of cancer in this country, and it can be related to processed foods. The gastrointestinal, and I saw a commercial last night on TV. It said Alzheimer's. We all are affected by it. We will probably all have it, and most of us they basically were saying we need to pay attention to this commercial. Alzheimer's has just recently began to become a major phenomenon in this country. In the early 1900s, people didn't have Alzheimer's to the point that it was such a regular disease that we now have whole institutions devoted to caring for people with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a relatively new disease that has become, it's not a new disease, excuse me. It is a relatively largely growing disease now. It's one of the largest growing amongst elderly people. There are people in other countries that never eat a drop of our processed foods. They're living to 80 and 90 years old and have the greatest memories in the world. It's in the food. We're eating foods that are causing us to be sick. But the worst of all is that we have 70 million obese people in this country. There's an epidemic of obesity in this country. And here's some of the foods that cause this obesity and all these other diseases that you saw, the heart disease, the high blood pressure, the cancer, the type 2 diabetes. Lunch meats, potato chips, my personal favorite, and then pizza, microwavable foods. We've got ice cream, that's my husband's favorite, store-bought cookies, cakes and cupcakes, candy. flavored waters, gum, soda pops, as some people call them. But these are the things that are not, that are on this scale right here, that are on our pyramid here, my apologies, that are unhealthy for us. As you can see, this is what our food guide, our food pyramid should look like. We should X out the dairy, the meat, the no cooked grains, and go to the maker's diet, as Jordan Rubin calls it. Jordan Rubin personally had Crohn's disease. His father was a billionaire. He flew his son all over the world to the best doctors in the world. No matter where the doctor was, he sent Jordan. Nobody could help Jordan Rubin with Crohn's disease. He made a prayer and he said, God, he said, I promise you I'll dedicate my life to whatever it is. But if you just cure me of this Crohn's disease, I promise you I'll dedicate my life to fighting for people knowing the cause of my being saved. The maker's diet is what he landed with. God, he read the Bible every day, and God led him to his diet that was in the Bible: nuts, grains, vegetables, fruits, water, and he spent his whole life now making sure that people know that medicine did not cure Jordan Rubin, that God's diet cured him. Nuts, grains, fruits, vegetables, things that God gives us normally. Robin Quivers, Montel Williams, these are both TV personalities. Both of them he was almost debilitated, she almost died because of eating poorly. And someone introduced to them a raw foods, whole foods based way of eating. Here's what our pyramid should look like, our food pyramid. We should have a lot more green and colorful types of foods. They should be the color of the rainbow. Now, one of the things that I wanted you to walk away with today is, how do you get away from processed foods? Number one, shop the outside perimeters of the grocery store, or go to your local farmer's market, or start growing your own food. Second thing is, get as much knowledge as you can and surround yourself with people that are going to help you with your efforts to get off of processed foods. And when you go somewhere, always be prepared to have your own food when you're out, so that if they don't have something that fits your diet, you can eat and you have something for yourself. And another thing is never, ever, ever go into the inner aisles of the grocery store. If you go into it, your temptations, the addictions that you have to the food colorings and the food things, they will overcome you. So I did want to leave you with this. You have to ask yourself, they're streamlining us all to the same grocery store, same restaurants. Who profits from us not eating healthy? Surely not us, because we get sick from it.